Right then, I've been asked to do an interesting little job, so I thought maybe just throw a quick video together about it. This is the heat exchanger from a fairly new, actually, Beta Marine diesel engine. And this is effectively what converts it from a normal, I think it was a dumper truck engine or something, to a marine engine, where the coolant in the actual engine block itself, which is fresh water, is cooled by salt water, or raw water as they like to call it. It gets passed through this tube stack, which is the actual heat exchanger, which sits inside this casting. And these are the sort of end caps that, that seal it up and form the bit for the raw water system. Now in the they've changed the design now, because I think it was a slightly dodgy design, so I think they do now, it's a sort of a flanged part that goes here, which is much nicer than how it was done, which was a single bolt through the middle going right through the tube stack, and two O-rings which have to sort of expand into these collars that are JB welded or epoxied into the casting. Now what's happened here is, at some point, I think somebody's, and this is very easy to do on the annual servicing, especially when you're in the confines of an engine bay, somebody's put it together slightly wonky. Not that there was an external leak, the O-rings were taking care of that, but there's been a leak between the raw and fresh water sides. So what's happened is these rings that sit in here where the seal happens, they've very badly corroded. And as you can probably see, that one has got big chunks out of it. So he could get a replacement for this with one of the new style ones. It's quite an expensive option, and we've still got quite a lot of spares lying around for this. Unfortunately, these rings that have failed are not available as a spare part, but they seem like they'd be fairly easy to make. Now I drew it up in CAD, measured it just to get an idea of what we're dealing with, and I've 3D printed just in ABS an adapter, I'll call it an adapter ring, to go into the hole in the casting, which then, yeah, these parts should sit in quite nicely and we should be able to get them to seal. So the only thing that remains to be done is to make this, instead of ABS, out of alloy of some kind. But luckily I've found in my scrap pile what seems to be an ideal starting point for this. There's a sort of alloy tube. It's got a slightly flat edge on it, so there'll be a bit of an interrupted cut on the outside when I've got it in the lathe, but I don't think this is going to be insurmountable. And also I've got the chance to have maybe 4 goes at producing them. So if I can, I may well just make 4 of these, so there's a couple spare. Assemble it all back together. I might pop this in the blasting cabinet and give it a clean. Yeah, there's a lot of salt water contamination and stuff in it that could do with flushing out. And then, you know, really it should be up and running again as it was. I don't see that this should be a problem. There doesn't seem to be too much other damage to the casting. I think once we've got it cleaned up, that should work nicely. So anyway, we'll crack on with this and see how we get on. Right, so I think we've done okay there. We've got a couple of nice rings to go in either end of this casting. They're exactly the same size as the old damaged ones, but obviously not corroded. They need to be epoxied into place. I'm not sure what they used originally for the epoxy, but I'll probably use something like JB Weld. And a couple of things I noticed on the casting, actually, while I was cleaning it up a bit, is that on this side, around the pipe there is a bit of weld that sort of encroaches onto the area where the old ring went, which meant it never actually seated square. So whether that was part of why it ended up leaking originally, I don't know. But anyway, I'll just grind that off to a nice finish. And also, I noticed on the pressure cap bit here, there's a crack, which I hadn't noticed before. But that bit does unscrew, and it's available as a replacement part. They're still available, unlike the actual rings for the tube stack. So I think we'll order one of those up and just replace the whole lot, just to be on the safe side. So next job, might be nice to just pop it in the blasting cabinet, clean it up, and maybe give it another coat of paint before replacing the rings. But if I've got a little blasting cabinet there which I could use, but I need to make up some adapters for the air lines and things. It's all, my air system's very strange, so I'll probably just take it over to Max's tomorrow, and I'm doing some work over there, so we can just sort that out then. So next step, blast it, clean it, coat of paint, and we can see about putting it back together. Okay, so we've got it in Max's workshop now, because I've come up here to do a couple of days work.
See this?
So he's sorting out the...
see the metal just flying off of there as I file away?
Because it's actually a sharp file, yeah. Unlike all my files, which come from car boot sales and the 1950s. So this is Max dealing with the weld thing that I'd sort of mentioned earlier on. It couldn't be any worse. He's also managed to remove the cracked top bit that we had a look at. I'm trying to see where the crack was now.
I desoldered it in the process.
Ah, okay. So that was originally attached, was it?
Yeah, it wasn't actually a crack as such, because it's just the joint had lifted apart.
Oh, okay. So rather than being cracked, it was just a...
Yeah, so you could just repair this one. You know, that would be the same as fitting your new one. But
yeah. I wonder whether this being made of a different material might actually be better stuff, but...
It's curious, they changed it, isn't it?
Yeah, it would appear that they've also changed it from the tube stack section having a single bolt through the middle, well, a pair of these bronze bolts. The new ones are flanged. I took a photo when I was in their factory earlier on. I'll show you in a bit. So they clearly had problems with that design, but they want to sell you a new one, so they've got you every which way, basically. So I thought maybe if the...
It is just like owning a horse, isn't it? Owning a yacht.
Yeah, they just pile the zeros on.
Yeah. How big is this O-ring?
Do you want me to go and grab it for you?
So you'll notice it's very dark in here. That's because the machine that makes the light isn't on just yet. So starting procedure of this thing is very similar to the dumper, except a bit easier, even though it's got 2 cylinders. So I'll put the excess fuel on, which is a switch over there, and then the decompressors here. We've got 2 cylinders as opposed to the 1 on the dumper. Both those open, and then crank it here, the cranking handle. And for all those that insist on telling me how to crank an engine, have a look inside of there. There's a little spring-loaded indent, which means that it will turn that way, and then when the engine kicks on, it will be perfectly safe.
And typically it's been, you know, the season where it had been sat just full of seawater for the year, not doing anything, because obviously it didn't go in the water last season.
At least we know what's the noble metal now out of brass and aluminium. No, there's no corrosion to that at all, is there? So I've mixed some JB weld. I'm going to do a dry fit.
Yeah. Well, we've already established that all fits. I mean, this is going to be fairly clean, I would have thought, isn't it?
So we're going to go for it.
Yeah. Now this is the. I think this is the side that's. Bafflingly, like with some other bits on it, this has had a groove sort of machined in one side of the casing, but then on this side the groove isn't there, and it's where the weld was that I sort of showed earlier on. So the whole thing on the original setup was slightly wonky, but because of the way that it's machined, it's still going to be slightly wonky, but it's exactly as it came out of the factory, so what can you do?
They probably put it on just to mask the fact that it's so wonky.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the original one was definitely on there on the wonk because the casting's machined in a weird way. It's
so now if we do the other side and then clamp them together.
Yeah, I mean I think that's what we'll do. That side doesn't fall out under its gravity.
That'd be a bit lame, wouldn't it?
But I think rather than putting the full tube stack in, if we just use this threaded rod, and this is amazing, getting you to do the epoxying. You've messed up your fingers, so I don't have to.
I was just showing you how to do it. You were supposed to do this side.
Yeah. Well, you seem to be really enjoying it, and you were reminiscing about your radiator days.
Well, you just kept me talking until I suddenly ended up doing it.
Isn't that how we normally work? If I just I talk enough, you just get frustrated and carry on. It's worked well for several years. Just wanted nipping up, really, didn't it? What do you reckon?
Yeah, I'm not going to tighten it anymore. Like the casting.
Yeah.
Have some more to thick.
I think I might give up at that point.
There's enough clamping force on an 8mm threaded rod to destroy those castings, no problems.
Yes, I think there is, but not done up that tight.
No.
That's the thing.
There you go.
Nice, so we're JB welded up, we'll leave that to dry.
Go and eat some burgers.
Go and eat some burgers. Tidy.
It's gone a bit vague, this gauge. Right, let's mix some paint. Right then, Mr. Tanner, this is a spray gun.
It is.
So air comes through this line, regulated air. So this thing here has got two filters on there, one to take out moisture, one to take out oil residue, and the other to take out particulates. That's 3 filters. And then it's got a regulator at the end here, so that regulator is rusted in place at 40 psi, which is what we want. So that works out. So the air comes in the bottom here, and you'll be familiar with this concept. The air comes through here through a Venturi chamber, which induces a suction in this line, pulls paint up into the airstream. The paint and air mix come out of the middle, but it also blasts air through these horns, which gives it a fan pattern.
Okay.
So with these guns, you can set the fan pattern to be like that or like that, depending on what you're spraying. In real life.
Nicely primered.
Yeah. All done. Good work, Mark.
Looks quite nice and grey, doesn't it? Cheers for that.
Does that conclude our filming for that?
Yeah, I think that's really good actually. I mean, that's a completely separate video. It can be bonus material. Okay, so I brought it back to my workshop now. Giving it a bit of a spray of the proper red paint. It all looks quite tidy. All that really remains to do now is to put it back together. We've got a few new bits and pieces. Given the end caps a bit of a paint as well, make them look nice. So I think we'll give that a go. The other thing that is a bit of an issue is this isn't actually going to be able to be tested until it's fitted back on the boat engine and the boat is actually launched, because we're going to need the seawater going through the coolant. So it's a bit of a, there's not no pressure. We might end up just drifting around in Plymouth Sound, or having to paddle or something. Anyway, we'll pop it back together, and then the next step is to get it down to Plymouth next week and actually get it fitted, and yes, hopefully the client will be happy with the result. Okay, so we come down to the boat in the rain. There's a unit there ready to go back on the engine there. But what I've noticed, where the seawater ingress happened, we got a bit of corrosion to deal with. We've got a new exhaust manifold thingy to go on, but the old one's well and truly stuck in place. That's the actual original exhaust bits where the heat exchanger bolts on. Also, while we're at it, we need to fix, need to put a new impeller on here for the raw water side. So yeah, a little bit of work to do there, but it shouldn't be too long before we can get the studs back in here and try and fit the unit. So that could be fun and games. The weather outside is pretty minging, but we do have a interesting neighbour over there who's going back in the water tomorrow. So anyway, fun and games. Right, well, we've flushed the old system, the jacket there. This is the second flush, and actually the water is looking pretty clear. We were worried about salt contamination in here. Luckily the skipper had already given it a rinse through at the end of the last season, so it seems the only remaining salt was really in this top section, which we've taken apart and sorted out separately. And you know, if I taste the water, actually there's no salty taste to that at all now. So there's I would say there's no salt contamination left in the water jacket. So I think the idea is we'll just drain this down. Again, the skipper's made up some antifreeze solution, so I think that's probably ready to top up and go. We're never going to get the engine up to full temperature and pressure while it's out of the water, so that'll be down to, again, the skipper to find out whether it explodes or not when they launch in a couple of weeks, and hopefully if it does explode, he'll make a nice video of it and send to me. Yay. That'll do. Okay, there's been a bit of a change of plan. The launch date got put forward a little bit, so I was able to make it down. So I'm going to be here for the launch, and here's the boat in the cradle ready to go in. There won't be much dialogue during the launch itself, particularly coming out the boatyard, because we'll be trying to make sure that we don't sink or hit anything. So let's see how that goes.
Alright, just saying 1.1 there.
Close enough.
Yeah, there is a bit of leeway, so it'll be alright. Yeah, but there is a little bit of leeway, so just down here. No, down here, down here.
Give her a quick.
Yeah, I will actually. Yeah, we have.
That's him. Nice. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I think we're all right, to be honest. I remember it being narrower before. They do like to fill the boats.
Yeah, that's what they've done. They've pushed it out a bit.
but it only gets deeper out here, doesn't it? So I think we've got over the shallowest bit.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, we couldn't have got in any earlier, I think.
He wants a bit of work.
Someone that gave you that for a present.
Yeah, bit of a fixer-upper, innit? A little bit of planking, it'll be fine. Cover it all in gel coat. I was hoping the Navy would have gave us a 21 gun salute like they were doing earlier on.
Yeah, we've missed that.
What's the depth?
Or a heady 1.7.
Yeah.
This rib crank is working.
Let's have a look. That's it, all done and dusted. Another satisfied customer, and back on the river ferry, heading on to the next job, which is at the other side of the country, I think. Yeah,